Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good to see you again. Hope you're doing well. OP07 is right around the corner. We got the pre-release events coming up. If you haven't signed up for them, this video may or may not be relevant to you, but if you did get to sign up for them, and you're lucky enough to be able to play in a few, then this video is just going over some of the more important cards that you can get from the packs and build your pre-release deck. Now, there are some important things to know about pre-release, and to go over those, we have, are you going to be playing in sealed or constructed? That is very important as like the first thing to recognize. You need to talk to your local store that you signed up for to figure that out. They will decide whether it's sealed or constructed, and sealed just meaning that you get 6 packs, you open up your 6 packs, you get 72 cards, and you get to build a deck of 40 cards and have a leader to play with, right? So you can choose one of the leaders that come in OP07, or you can bring a leader from any starter deck, previous set, doesn't matter. So yeah, that's going to be sealed. And then constructed is you're just going to be bringing a normal pre-built deck of 50 cards, and you get to add any existing cards from OP07 or whatnot into there. Every store is different though, so make sure that you ask around. Another thing to note is you might want to bring a couple of sleeves if you do want to have your deck sleeved up, if you want to protect your cards. I know friends of mine that they don't really care. They're just like, yeah, I'm going to be playing with the cards anyways, so who cares if they get dinged up? And I'm totally down for that mentality as well. Other than that, for sealed as well, an important thing to note is that there are no color restrictions, so you can use every single card. You don't have to build a deck of 40 of one color or that match your leader's color. It can just be anything. And I know the vast majority of you might know this, but if someone's new coming into the sealed event, I do hope that this information helps. And to get into the nitty-gritty, we've got leaders. These are the 5 potential leaders that I think will be your best bet in bringing in a sealed format. So the rest of this video is basically just about the sealed format. Constructed, you bring a deck, you play against other people, you know how to play the game. And if you don't, there's other videos that are definitely helpful for that. But this is just strictly about, you know, the sealed event and how we're going to tackle that. There's 5 different leaders that you can potentially bring. There's actually even more, but I think these are probably your 5 best bets. I think that Eustace Captain Kidd is the GOAT though. I think Eustace Captain Kidd is the best leader in sealed format. I don't see any other leader that really just does what he does. Do not get me wrong, Yamato though is fire with the double attack and being able to use the activate main. You can attach 2 Dawn to a character if your opponent's at 3 or less life, and I mean that's insane on its own right. So Yamato and Kidd are, like, in my opinion, probably the best, but we do have some new additions coming in from OP07, which are going to be Bonnie and Dragon. I think they're very interesting. I don't know how they're going to play in the sealed format, but it will be very, very interesting how it goes. So Bonnie, having that 1 Dawn left up after your turn and passing it back over to your opponent, whenever they attack, it rests a leader or character immediately. So this is going to be really, really useful in taking care of your opponent's blockers or potentially secondary big swings that are coming through. The tough part about Bonnie is that I do think that it might not be that great into the Kidd matchup, because Kidd will just be able to swing with leader and then restand, swing with leader again. So yeah, you may have rested my character, but at the same time, who really cares? I got another attack. But yeah, Bonnie is, I still think it's really solid. If you're able to, you know, aggro your opponent down early enough and then rest your opponent's blockers, or even one of them, and then take care of them with a secondary effect, I think it's a super solid pick. So I think that that is relevant. Bonnie might find a place in some of the sealed formats going forward. So we'll see about that. And then we also have Dragon. I think Dragon's really interesting because you get to give 2 attached Dawn to one of your characters. So it means that you're swinging 7 with leader every time, and then you can just attach those Dawn to one of your characters. And there's also really useful Dawn X1 when attacking characters in this OP07 pre-release. So I don't know. I think Dragon's pretty interesting. I'm gonna see. I'm kind of interested to see how many people play it. If you guys have like interest in any of these 5 leaders or other leaders, I'd love to hear it. We also have Anel on here, but Anel is pretty much just kind of a weird one in the sealed format. You can kind of stay alive sort of endlessly with this leader, but you do have to rely on pretty important blocks as well as a lot of cards in hand. So this ends up eating through your cards pretty quickly once you get down to 1 life. But yeah, it all kind of depends. I think Anel is definitely a contender, though. It was good in the past. I don't think it'll be any bad or any worse now. So I still personally am probably going to stick with Kid, but that's just me. I think that there's a lot of viability. There's also really interesting ideas that you could run with some of the other OP07 leaders if you do get a lot of them, such as like the Foxy Pirates or the Egghead characters. So a lot of interesting stuff. But 2K counters, ladies and gentlemen, every single 2K that you pull in your pack is going into your 40 card deck. That is without a doubt. If you even leave 1 out, you are insane. 2K counters are some of the most important things in sealed format because you don't have a set amount. Sometimes you can get like 3 or 4 out of your sealed packs and it is rough. So hopefully you end up getting somewhere in the 7 to 10 range. That would be amazing. But you know, however many you get put into your deck, I've had 4 before and I was able to win, but it was not pretty. It was very, very tough. I would definitely recommend putting every single 2K you have in there. Now, I have a few highlighted here. I have Law, Crocodile, and Sanji. These are going to be your more playable 2Ks, which it's kind of a, you know, it's kind of a double-edged sword. So you lose the 2K counter out of hand, but you do get to play a card down that will more than likely have a very useful effect. So for example, with Law, the activate main is you can return the character to your hand, which is nice. You get it right back. And then if your opponent has 6 or more cards in their hand, they place 1 card from their hand to the bottom of the deck. So you get to get 1 out of your opponent's hand. You get the 2K back. The tough part is that worth 4 Dawn? It's situational. So I think that Law will be interesting. I just put it in here as a highlighted card because it is potentially playable. A lot of the other ones I don't really see as too big on, you know, potentially being played. I mean, there is a world where Edison and Papag get played. So Papag is if you have a Kami on the board, then Papag gains blocker. So there is a world where that could be relevant. And then Edison, if you have 2 or less life, you get to draw 2 and trash 2, so you can cycle out some of those dead cards. And you pretty much establish a 5K swing for the following turn. So that's also got some potential there. But the others, not so much. I mean, yeah, there are a few instances, but it's very unique scenarios. But we also have Crocodile, and Crocodile is an on-play. You can pay 1 Dawn and then return a 2-cost or lower character to the owner's hand. This could be your 2-cost. This could be your opponent's. Yeah. So being able to, you know, potentially bounce something back after getting some form of usage out of it. I mean, you can even look at Moda right here, the 2K counter. On play, give your ace character plus 2,000 power. You can play that down, give one of your aces plus 2K, swing, play Crocodile, pay 1, bounce that back to your hand. You've now got a 2K and your Crocodile is established, and you already got the 2000 power bonus out of Moda. So there are unique situations where Crocodile can come in. It's also nice to get rid of like the 2k or 2 cost chump blockers. Like some of those really annoying blocker cards can be like the detriment to you going for game, and Crocodile can help you get there. We also have Sanji, and this is probably going to be one of the most insane cards in the pre-release. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm actually forgetting the top text. I think it's while you have fewer Dawn cards than your opponent, this costs 3 less in your hand. So this is a 3 cost 6k blocker if you have less Dawn. So pulling Sanji, potentially, you know, taking first and getting this down on turn 2 is, I mean, actually not turn 2, but taking first and like maybe using like a Dawn, minus Dawn effect, that's what it was, and getting it down on turn 3, I believe it was. Now I'm confusing this. I think it might be second. Either way, Sanji's nuts. It's a really good card. There was something I was thinking about that made this work, but either way, maybe you don't get the 3 you know, free Dawn off of its effect. It's still a 2k counter. It is a blocker. A 6k blocker is always going to be fantastic. So this is just a super solid card, very playable, very useful in hand and on the board. You can't really go wrong. And then we also have the blockers, speaking of Sanji, and I kind of put them in tiers. I think that blockers are useful no matter what, but I put them in tiers because I think that some are just vastly more useful than the others. And to start us off, I'm actually going to start from the bottom. The reason why I have these 4 in tier 3 is Jizumonda is actually just a pretty much like a vanilla blocker. That's what I call it. No effect or anything. It's just a chump blocker, 2 cost. It's a great card. It's an absolutely great card. But if you look at some of the other effects, you can see why I put it down here. Then we have Caribou, Koala, and Papag down here as well. That's because these, technically speaking, aren't blockers unless something else is relevant or happened. So with Caribou, actually no, excuse me, Caribou is a blocker. It's the other effect that is, if you have 6 or more rested Dawn, this character gains plus 1000, and that actually, Caribou should probably be in tier 2. I actually think I might have misread that. And now we have Koala though. When you may rest this card, give up to one of your opponents, or give up to one of your characters with a cost of 5 or lower, and with the type Fishman blocker for the turn. So there's a bunch of Fishman type cards that you can get in this set. This does give a potential card on your board blocker with the Koala. So it's got some variability, but it's, you know, it's a potential. And then Papag, of course, just having Kami gives it blocker. So that's why I kind of had those at tier 3. Caribou, though, we should probably bump up. That is a blocker. That's just a solid card. In tier 2, I've got a Rouge. A Rouge is probably one of the ones that it would just make up tier 1 as well. But set one of your Dawn cards as active at the end of your turn. I mean, that's awesome. It gives you, you know, potential Dawn for having an event if you have one 1 cost, maybe even a 2 cost. Yeah, a Rouge is going to help right there. So really like that card. And then we also have Ace, which is going to be on play, draw 2, then return 2 cards from your hand to the top or bottom of the deck. So you can cycle out 2 dead cards. Ace also has a bunch of random cards in this set that like buff it up, or it does something to, you know, Ace or like a Whitebeard type in particular. So that's going to be one of the blockers that I would highly recommend as well. Just having a 6k stat line, really good. Chaka just being a normal blocker, but with the trigger, you can play it if you're playing Vegapunk. I don't think that's super relevant. What I like about this is that it's a 6k blocker. I think 6k blockers are so good. It forces your opponent a lot of the times to attach extra Dawn, and it also saves you a 2k counter sometimes, which is fantastic. So Shaka is going to be fantastic in this as well. We've got Aladdin, and that's going to be on KO if your leader has the Fishman type, summon a 3-cost or lower Fishman or Merfolk type character card from your hand. I don't think this is great. I actually think I would swap Aladdin with Caribou, if I'm being honest, after rereading Caribou. I think I would put this down at tier 3 simply because it doesn't have a 1k counter. But it's a blocker. It's pretty good. Blockers are so useful in the sealed format. We also have Bartolomeo. This one, I don't really see many instances of being able to get this effect off. But I feel like if you can, it's insane. But yeah, it's a blocker. It's a cheap blocker. That's what's important, is it's a 3-cost. And then if there is a character that's rested from your own effects, draw 1, trash 1, cycling hand, fantastic. Going into tier 1, we've got Chopper on play. If your board has Dawn that's less or equal to your opponent's, add 1 Dawn. So you get to ramp and you get a blocker. Chopper's awesome. Love it. Super sick. Karina, though, I think Karina is probably going to be one of the best blockers out there. 1k counter, but also the on play of giving -2000 to one of your opponent's characters. It helps you manage the board, establishes defense. Karina is going to be insane in the sealed format, so as many of those as you can pick up and put in the deck is going to be very nice. We also have Tanaka-san. I think this is a great card for, yet again, 3 Dawn, and the trigger is just playing the card, so this could literally just save you if you get lucky and you get it out of life. So we've already talked about Sanji. Sanji's awesome. 2k counter, insane. Basil Hawkins, your leader has to be Supernova for it to gain blocker, but that's very easy considering the fact that you do have the potential chance of running Bonnie or use his Captain Kidd as a leader. So I'm super excited. If I do pull a Basil Hawkins and I'm running Kidd, I'm stoked. That's going to be a really good card. It's not going to be removed off the board. It's going to be a very, very powerful swing as well, which is really nice. We've also got Baccarat, which is a 3-cost, and then you can trash 1 card from your hand, give one of your leader or characters plus 2000 power during this battle, right? So that's whenever your opponent attacks you, you can just trash a dead card from hand and you get a 2k counter out of it, basically. It's pretty solid. I think Baccarat is going to be one of the better blockers for this as well. And then Marguerite, it cycles itself out. It's a blocker that on play you get to draw a card. That's awesome. That's so good. Like, anytime that you can cycle a card and you get a body onto the board that helps you play defensively, really, really good. But yeah, every blocker that you do pull, you're going to want to throw in the deck. I do think that Papag and Koala are kind of based off of what you get from your pulls, whether they become relevant or not. And now, these are some powerful cards that are worth mentioning. I want to say that these aren't all the powerful cards. There's plenty in this. I just want to highlight these in particular because I do think that they're very interesting. They have a lot of unique effects, and they could be used extremely well in this format. So we'll see how it goes. But to start in the top left, we have Lucy. And Lucy, when attacking once per turn, you can put the top or bottom card of your life pile into your hand. So you get to draw resources right there. Then you get to rest one of your opponent's 4-cost or less characters. And then, if your life total is 1 or less, you get to place the top card of your deck onto the top of your life. I think this card is going to be insane. If you can get this card down and it sticks, it is going to be nuts. Like, you can essentially just continuously cycle your hand, heal. It's going to be very, very, very nice. You get to draw. You get to, add another card back, rest a 4-cost. Like, Lucy's going to be insane. I really like the card. Yet again, not having counter, though, is kind of eh. So I would love to see this card on curve. If I don't, it might become a dead card, but there are ways to cycle. We've already talked about a few, so that's really nice. The Luffy, Zombie Luffy, I think is really interesting. You can trash an opponent's character with a cost of 2 or less. This helps, you know, get rid of some of those chump blockers, but I think that the second ability is where this potentially might shine. I don't think it's going to be massive, but it might end up being the factor of winning a game. And it's also a 1k counter, so you can't really complain. It's not really a dead card in hand. But placing any number of characters with a cost of 4 or more from the trash to the bottom of your deck, for every 3 that you place, you gain plus 1000 power for the battle. Not bad. Not bad. As you can see, there are a lot of 4 cost or higher characters that we have gone over already. So I think that this is, you know, just having a bunch of those in trash already is going to make this card very relevant for like a pretty decent power boost on like a final turn, or going for a rested character or something like that. So I really like Luffy. I think it's very interesting. We also have Morgans. This is on play. Your opponent discards 1 from their hand and then reveals their entire hand to you and then draws 1 card. So now you have information on all the different cards that are going to be in your opponent's hand, -1, but it's super solid. I mean, you do get 1, you know, your opponent trashes 1, more than likely going to be a dead card, and then you get information on the rest, but still, it just allows you to potentially plan for the future turns, which is really nice. Then we have Outlook 3. Place this card in the trash and give 2 opponent's characters -2000 power for the turn. This card is going to be insane. This is your board clear right here. If you can pick up like 2 of these out of your packs, you're looking good. These are going to be really nice for being able to manage, you know, a pretty annoying board if your opponent's got like multiple 6k bodies on the board. So I really like this card in the sealed format. I think this is going to be a fantastic one. We also have Fisher Tiger. This character can attack your opponent's characters on the turn it's played. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, besides Ace, and we'll get to Ace here shortly, I think besides Ace, this is like the only rush card, but I could be wrong. And this allows you to attack your opponent's characters. It can get rid of annoying blockers. It can get rid of, you know, something silly like a 4 cost or a 4k that was just attacking you. Yeah, it's super solid. I love the fact that I can play a card and start swinging into their characters pretty much immediately. On play, if your leader has the Fishman or Merfolk type, not really relevant because I don't believe we'll be playing any of that for the sealed event, but not bad at all. And now this Luffy card in the top right, the Afro Luffy, love it. Activate main, Dawn -3. If your opponent has 3 or more characters, set this card as active. So it can be a double attack, which is really nice. This is a really great way to potentially seal out the game. Personally, I love cards like this in a sealed format because your opponent might not think that you have it. But with this and your Useless Captain Kid ability, you can get multiple swings through, which is absolutely terrifying for your opponent. You can attach, like, we'll say attach multiple Dawn to your leader, swing with your leader first, rest 3 to reactivate your leader, swing with Luffy, subtract the 3 that you used to rest, and then bring back your kid to now reactivate your Luffy, and you have 2 more swings yet again. It's pretty nuts. So I think Luffy will be a very interesting card, as well as the Luffy in the bottom left. I think this is a great utility card just because you can use it for offense, and then you can wipe a card off the board and replace itself by drawing 1. It's pretty great. It's pretty great. You just have to have the caveat of having your life be at 2 or less, but I don't think that's very hard to do in a sealed format. Taking life, it gets a little dicey, but usually going down to 3 if you're a 5 life leader is pretty comfy. Going down to 2, but you know, you can do it at the right times, and then Luffy can shine. I think we also have Jinbei, which is playing 1 4 cost or lower 7 of the Warlords from your hand. Being able to play 2 bodies is pretty nuts in sealed. So Jinbei is very, very solid. There's also some really nice 7 Warlords cards that if you do get onto the board, they either have decent on-play effects or when attacking effects, so that is very relevant. It's also very annoying for your opponent to deal with. Jewelry Bonnie, though, the SR, is wild. This is stopping one of your opponent's rested characters or Dawn from becoming active during the next refresh phase. You can stop their curve. You can stop a character from, you know, reactivating. I mean, it is very annoying to deal with this. I mean, if you get hit with a Bonnie and get very unlucky and hit with 2 Bonnies in a row, it's pretty rough. But I think that's going to be a super solid card. Jimbei, I put this in here because it's a 5/6, but it's also because of the trigger. You can return a 4-cost or lower character to your opponent's hand and then add this card to your hand. So you don't even lose it. You just get a free trigger and you bounce back a 4-cost, which is pretty annoying for your opponent to have to deal with. They're like, they either lose a 4/6 or a 4/5, potentially a blocker. So Jimbei is solid as well. We also have Weevil. I think this card is wildly good, and it's a common, so everybody should more than likely draw into this. For a 4/5, when attacking, look at the top 3 of your deck, then place them in any order at the top or bottom. If they're bad cards, put them to the bottom. You're going to get 3, hopefully, better cards afterwards. If they're good, set them up in an order, and now you know what you're playing into for the next few turns. It's just, I mean, you can't complain. It's great. It's absolutely great. We also have the 5-cost Rob Lucci. I know that my big head is blocking it, but it does say on play, you can return 3 cards from your trash to the bottom of your deck in any order. Your opponent discards 1 from their hand, then your opponent places 1 card from their trash to the bottom of their deck. So you're not only mitigating like some of their trash, but you get 1 card out of their hand, and putting 3 from your trash to the bottom of the deck is, I mean, no sweat off my back. Sounds good to me. I think that Rob Lucci is going to be really solid. Getting hand destruction and a card like that on the board is really annoying for your opponent. So I like that a lot, and I think it's going to be very powerful. We also have some of the bigger bodies that are in OP07, and being Dragon, Boa Hancock, Stussy, Mihawk, Ace, and Sabo. I'm going to just briefly go over these because I think that they're self-explanatory. These cards are pretty much all SRs or secret rares except for Mihawk. So Mihawk, you just get to draw a card. It's an 8-cost 10k. Not bad. It doesn't have counter. I could see myself not playing this though if I have some of these others. Like if I had other cards like these other 5, I would probably not include the Mihawk, but that's just me personally. Oh, Dragon's the other Rush card. See, I knew I forgot one. Dragon with Rush, the on play, you get to give your leader or one of your characters 2 rested Dawn. So good. It's so good. The more that you draw, or the more that you pull of these out of your packs, the better, because Dragon's going to be insane. That's going to be a closing card. It's going to be really solid. You really can't beat that. And then Boa is probably one of the best you can get in the set. This is fantastic. So one of your opponent's characters other than Monkey D. Luffy cannot attack until the end of their next turn. Then you get to place a cost 1 or less character to the bottom of the owner's deck. I don't think that part is really all that relevant, but it maybe could be. It just kind of depends. Stussy being able to trash a card and KO anything. You can KO any character. 10-cost Ace, another Stussy. You can KO anything. I think that it speaks for itself. Ace though, I think is the best. Like the 2 secret rares in this set are absolutely nuts. Ace being able to gain Rush, but then also just being able to add 1 card from the top of your deck to the top of your life. And if you have 2 cards or less, or 2 life cards or less, it gains Rush. That's wild. That's so wild. It's a absolutely fantastic card, so pulling that will be massive, and being able to use that towards the end of the game, super solid. Sabo, though, trashing 1 card from hand and KOing a 5 and a 3. That's where a lot of these, you know, mid-range bodies lie in this, in this set. So Sabo is going to be an absolute menace, getting rid of multiple blockers or very annoying cards, and just being able to discard a dead card in hand. Can't really beat it. We also have events. I don't think events are something you should like super prioritize having in the deck. Like you want to have a few, but you know, don't go crazy. Okay, I'm not saying like add 10 events in a 40 card deck. I would go with something more like, you might have like 4 events that you find that are pretty solid. So give them a try. And I think all of these kind of, you know, fall into that place. I think in the bottom right, the most potentially useful one is going to be Perfume Femur. It gives you a 7 Warlords of the Sea type leader or character plus 2,000 power, and then your opponent cannot activate blocker when the selected card attacks. There's a lot of 7 Warlords of the Sea cards, and I think that this can go really well with it, but if you don't draw into any, then it's not worth including. But I really like this idea of being able to go through blockers, go for game. I think it's super solid. We've also got in the top left, though, Flame Split, giving a leader or character plus 1,000 for the turn, and if your opponent has 2 life or less, rest up to one of your opponent's 4 cost or lower characters. I mean, that's awesome. You gain plus 1,000, you rest a 4 cost, helps you go for game. The trigger, rest a opponent's 4 cost or lower, also very useful. We have Slave Arrow, which is return one of your 2 cost or higher characters to your hand. Get back at 2K real quick. Give up to one of your leader or characters plus 4,000 for the battle. I mean, that's nuts. That's nuts. And then the trigger is just draw 2, trash 2. So cycle, yeah. Well, draw 2, bottom deck 2, but cycle out here your hand a little bit, which is really nice. Karma Exposure, give a leader plus 2,000. Then if you control 3 or more characters, give it an additional 1,000. That's awesome. And the trigger KOs a 4 cost or lower rested character. Also really good. So, I mean, a lot of these are just 1 Dawn also, which is fantastic. It combos well with Eroge that we went over earlier. And then we have Demonic Aura 9 Sword Style. This is going to give your leader or character plus 3,000 power. Then you may rest one of your cost 3 or greater characters. And if you did, you can rest one of your opponent's 5 or less. That's really solid in this. You can get rid of, you know, something, rest a 3 cost vanilla or something like that, and rest one of their 5 cost blockers. That'll help you out in your following turn as well. So pretty solid. Iron Body, though, giving one of your leaders or characters plus 4,000, and then if your trash is 10 or more, plus another plus 2,000. I don't expect to get the second effect off as much, but a 2 cost or 2 Dawn for plus 4k is always solid. 2 cost Snake Dance here to give another plus 4k, and then return one of your characters return one of your characters to its owner's hand. I'm not entirely sure whether this was your character, because it does say your character, but the way that it's worded as far as to its owner's hand, it makes me feel like it could be either or, but I think that would be a little busted if I'm being honest. So I believe it's just one of yours. But that could still be very useful. Getting back a playable 2k or something of the sorts, or maybe even a 1k counter that you might need. So love to see it. And Noro is Dawn -1, give a leader or character plus 2,000, then rest one of your opponent's characters, any character. That's solid. So love that for the 2ks, or 2 costs, excuse me. And now, this was something I just kind of wanted to include at the very end here. The SP cards are something that you can pull from your packs, and that means that you can play them in your sealed format. And on that note, you also should receive, I believe it's 1 pre-release, it might be 1 or 2 pre-release pack at the start of the event, and whatever 2 cards you have in there, you can also include in your pool of cards that you can use for your 40 cards. Ezo is probably the only one that I would say is just not playable. It's a 1 cost, search 5, Whitebeard. You just can't really, doesn't really do anything. Okiku, though, for a 3/5 for when attacking, rest one of your opponent's 5 costs or less. Insane. Absolutely insane. That's really, really good. The Doflamingo blocker as well, another blocker, and it lets you look at the 5 cards from the top of your deck and you know, organize them. Absolutely love that. Cannot get enough of that. Isho, I think that Isho you could play if you didn't draw any other top end. I don't think Isho's great, but it's not awful. I just don't think your opponent's really gonna stay at more than 6 cards in hand a lot of the times. A lot of the times in sealed, you're trying to counter out of your board and protect it. Sometimes you're letting cards go, but you're usually sitting around 4 to 5 cards in hand. And then we have the 5-cost Eustace Captain Kidd. It's a blocker, and some Dawn -1 effects help you ramp as well. I mean, you can't really beat that. That's amazing. And Onami, being able to play and give your leader or character banish. I mean, if you can give that to Eustace Captain Kidd, that's insane. And Trigger as well, being able to KO a 5-cost or less. Also insane. So that's it for the SP cards, but I hope all this information helped. I genuinely hope that there's something that you guys found useful in here, or if there's some information that, you know, you'll be able to, you know, use towards getting your own win at the pre-release event, or doing the best that you can. So I'm looking forward to some of the events I'm going to. I'm going to try and get myself this Eustace Captain Kidd winner card, and I'm super excited for it. But if you got any questions, or you want to leave a comment, let me know, you know, if this was useful, if there were some other cards that I might have missed that you think are going to be really impactful. I'd love to hear it. And if I didn't include a card, it's not because I don't think it's good. I just thought these cards were some of the best that I enjoyed reading, and I thought they had really unique abilities. So I'm super excited for it. I wish you the best of luck. And yeah, if it did help, consider leaving a like and a subscription down below, because we'll always have more content. And other than that, take care. Peace.